long term, it's the truth that will prevail. And perhaps this is that moment that we are reckoning in India's foreign policy, where we are seeing that they are all able to realize that come what may, at the end of the day, it is India that is very important, and India is alone capable of doing something in the South Asian neighborhood without actually troubling them, without actually taking undue advantage of them, without actually hurting any of these countries internally.
Are the people in those countries realizing their folly, or in terms of are they realizing the importance of India?
If India cannot help also, at least India will not hurt anyone. That's the value that I spoke about when I said it's civilizational value.
Maldives as a switching, switching to China, then the pro-Indian government comes, then things will change. The Indian strategic interest or the naval port. These are some things has become like a domestic politics for India. But now there is a anti-India protest and the pro-Indian government. So how do you see, in the point of view, China has the influence there?
This India, anti-India protests and other things were started, they were funded, and they were taken care of by few players at the geopolitical level. But the political dispensation has been actually very close to India, and they know the type of help that India has done.
We are not helping Nepal as a big brother. We are helping Nepal as an elder brother. When we help them as an elder brother, we also have some care. We help with some concern.
US's relation with India is at the mature level. That is economic relation. They cannot afford to disturb the defense and economic relation. They cannot, because we are one of the biggest markets. We are biggest consumers as well. Exactly. So they cannot afford to touch on that part. This is like a mercenary state for them.
Yes.
They would want to use as and when, let's say, India is not completely there here, also minimal, also they are not listening to, unlike previous years and other things. That is the time when you want to.
Namaste. Welcome to another episode of Samvada discussions. Over the last few weeks, we have been witnessing what's happening in India's neighborhood, be it the economic downturn in Sri Lanka, or the political churning in Pakistan, China's interventions in India's neighborhood. To make sense of this and India's foreign policy and India's approach, I am joined by Dr. Nanda Kishor, Associate Professor, Politics and International Studies, Pondicherry University. We'll be having his insights today. I am also joined by Ajith Shetty Herenje, editor of Dhyeya Kamala and of Nilme channel, who will be joining me in the discussion and questioning Dr. Nanda Kishor. So, welcoming them, I would request Dr. Nanda Kishor to throw some light on how India is making sense of what's happening in its neighborhood. Given the lot of political upheavals and economic downturn and the foray of China and different spheres. So we'll start off with your initial comments, then I'll open up the discussion with Ajith Shetty.
Okay. I think thank you first and foremost to be with both of you, and it's always a pleasure to get back to good friends. And coming to the very point that we're talking about, India's foreign policy outcomes, or how would India's foreign policy look at the happenings or the outcome in South Asian politics, the turmoil that is going on. I think it's interesting time. Perhaps a crisis in South Asian neighborhood is in India's interest, though it may sound a bit negative, but I think this is the right time for the neighborhood to realize India's real value and what India has stood ground for a very, very long time. This is perhaps that is associated with our civilizational root as well, that being good may take very long time for people to appreciate, and being quick, decisive and destructive can attract people very fast. But long term, it's the truth that will prevail, and perhaps this is that moment that we are reckoning in India's foreign policy, where we are seeing that they are all able to realize that come what may, at the end of the day, it is India that is very important, and India is alone capable of doing something in the South Asian neighborhood without actually troubling them, without actually taking undue advantage of them, without actually hurting any of these countries internally.
Exactly. So, I mean, before we kind of get into the specifics of each country, the thought which came to my mind is: are the people in those countries realizing their folly, or in terms of, are they realizing the importance of India? I mean, one is India's foreign policy and a way it deals with these countries, but are the people there, according to your reading, are the people understanding the importance of?
Indeed. See, what happens is people's feelings are not regularly being broadcasted. They don't have a way to put across. And at times it also happens that the states would want to probably contain some of the material that comes in, like the usage of the social media. The state of Sri Lanka controlled it. It contained a lot of them, put control over internet, did not actually give internet at all to people, because there was a outpouring of it. There was a time where India could have got involved with regard to Hambantota. You ended up giving it to the Chinese, you rushed in, and this is the outcome. Now also look at it. When we went through COVID, it was India that sent us vaccination. When now we are going through a crisis, they are the one who are sending petroleum products, they are sending us other required material. It is India that is, without you asking, India is extending hand. Perhaps this is what it is. In fact, cricketers have spoken out. Arjuna Ranatunga has spoken about, Sanjay Surya has spoken about, quite a few important people have spoken about, and this is the voice of the people in Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka is also being a multi-ethnic society. People have said, see, one best thing about India is that if India cannot help also, at least India will not hurt anyone. That's the value that I spoke about when I said it's civilizational value. So now people in Sri Lanka are realizing that had we gone with India, we could have waited for a while. We could have not got trapped into that early inspiration that they had with the Chinese growth and other things. Things could have been different. Now what goes off in between is what people are unable to express is also that the political class was much more interested in the Chinese coming in than that of the public. And the political class always gains, because Chinese have a smart way of dealing with this. They take them to China, they put them in some islands, they give them these freebies, they take care of everything, and you get mesmerized or you get smitten by their hospitality, and then you think, okay, personally there is something that's coming to me, why not do something like this? So, but even if the public don't want to be part of it, they are like that, they are fed up. In fact, 2020 February, when I was in Sri Lanka, one of the things that came out was that people were telling that every other place we are seeing only the Chinese. In infrastructure there are Chinese, in marketing there are Chinese, in everything there are Chinese. Then where is that idea of Sri Lanka? Where is that Sinhala identity going? We are talking on the one hand that there are other religious groups and other things that are overpowering and all these things, but economically we are selling ourselves. So where are we making sense of, and why not we stick to what is our region, that is South Asia? This is something that people openly spoke to me in Colombo, in Kandy, in all these places. They just came and spoke to me in some of these places, because I had also been to one of their defense institute where I delivered a lecture, and presently the Foreign Secretary of Sri Lanka, Jayanta Kolambage, hosted me there. Okay. So in fact all of them were appreciative of what India has done. But the thing is also, see, geopolitically, balancing becomes very important. Balancing and bargaining, these two are very important terminologies. In fact, where they got trapped and they thought they were very smart was in this thought of bargaining. Whether it was Sri Lanka, whether it was Maldives, whether it was Nepal, they all thought that we'll do the best bargaining by saying that we'll go to them if you don't do this one, and out of which they ended up getting into their trap. Now they are realizing that bargaining was expensive. And that bargaining has put country into a very, very deep trouble, and now it's a deep state. It's not easy, when you lose legitimacy, when you lose confidence in the people, when you see people coming out from all sections of society and then they're agitating against you and asking you to go out, that's a deep crisis. Not every time crowd will be real, but at the same time, irrespective of political affiliations and parties, and irrespective of whom they belong to, where they belong to, if it's resonating across the country, then there is a danger. Then there is something seriously wrong about it, which I'm sure I was appreciative of what Gotabaya at least did it. He is accepting it. Now they are accepting the folly, which is very important.
See, there was when there was a Madesi movement in Nepal, when the communist government was drafting a new, there was some constitutional drafting team where Madesis were not given some constitutional provisions. There was a huge strike, and they have literally banned India and Nepal border. They were struggling to get petrol and even the medicine. When some, I don't know, I still remember it was in the parliament where Sushma Swaraj was foreign minister, and opposition leader said, you'll completely lost Nepal. This government has did nothing, and you are not helping. At that time, she stood and told one word, which literally even it's very interesting. She said, we are not helping Nepal as a big brother. We are helping Nepal as an elder brother. When we help them as an elder brother, we also have some care. We help with some concern. Now I feel same thing when we help Sri Lanka. So that is one thing. The second thing is, when Nepal crisis happened, when Hambantota port was going away from India, when Afghanistan was getting back, the Taliban was taking over, when there was a problem in Pakistan, people thought it was an instant reaction that Indian neighborhood is out of Indian control. But our diplomacy was very silent. They were working under the carpet, and now it's suddenly that everything is in favor of India. Even in Afghanistan, it's like American weapon, Indian wheat is killing Pakistan's happiness.
So, what you're trying to say basically is like there was a groundwork laid for so many years, which the fruits which we are seeing now.
See, we should not be, what I feel is we should not be panicking. We should know what is our strength. And I think it's Jaishankar was always tell is diplomacy is all about possibilities.
Absolutely.
Possibilities. You have to wait for the right situation, and you have to keep talking.
Correct. No. True. I absolutely agree with Mr. Ajith's point of view, because I've said a very unpopular opinion. I've given unpopular opinion on many occasions where I said that you cannot absolutely satisfy your neighborhood. Kautilya said this long ago. He said that one. You can never satisfy your neighborhood for the simple reason that even if you do everything to them, there is an amount of jealous that is not there with me. How is it there with them? This is something that you can see in your own neighborhood.
Exactly. True.
Your own neighborhood you can observe. It's the same behavior. That's why he said your neighbor is enemy. That's what he said. But the thing is, India being a good nation, right? Even before it was great nation, that in between patch that we had where we were not a great nation, we continued to be a good nation. Even at that time, what we have thought is that let us be good to them. The problem is also what Mr. Ajith was raising with regard to Sushma Swaraj making that comment, and subsequently lot of scholars and opposition attacking India, saying that one. If there is no political stability in a state like Nepal, with whom you will talk? Yes. So you will do a groundwork. Mr. Ajith is sent by, let's say, the ministry as an ambassador to Nepal. Yes. He does groundwork for 3 months. And there is one setup that is by a particular prime minister. He has his own setup, his people. You have done groundwork, you put your sweat, you did everything. 3 months you have a next prime minister coming. Exactly. How will you deal with this situation? I have said this time and again. When I am teaching in the semester, I am saying somebody as a prime minister. When I am giving question paper, there is somebody else as a prime minister. How do you deal with that one? So this is problem for someone else. Exactly. By the time it comes to valuation and we declare result, it's someone else. So it's an easy chance for the student to challenge the teacher, saying that when you said something else and somebody else is there. So in such type of scenarios, in diplomatic scenarios, because diplomacy is a process. You lay ground, you work in the ground, and you prepare people, you prepare a way of thinking. Lot of things are done. That's precisely when Mr. Modi went and and people garlanded. They saw him as sort of Hindu Hriday Samrat. He was seen as someone, for a long time they waited for a prime minister of his stature. He went to Pashupatinath. All those things happened, and in the next few months you suddenly see people burning effigies. Now this is not India's problem. It is Nepal's problem. Nepal couldn't handle. If its civil society was strong, it had built institutions, they would have not struggled so much to create a constitution. They are unable to even arrive at a constitution. So it is not India's problem, it is actually Nepal's problem that has to be recognized.
So we'll start with the Nepal. Now the Nepal has changed from monarchy to democracy. So the transition process was not smooth, or they could not handle the whole set of events properly, or they didn't seek the Indian help, or how it ended up in such a mess that a Hindu country become a secular, then become a communist, and they say no, we want to become again a Hindu country now, and in between there was some land border issues where they changed the map. And I never saw Indian government ever reacted it publicly. I don't know what they did. Now it's
just one thing. Just adding to his question. See, since we spoke about Sri Lanka and then Nepal, so one added doubt is like in your reading, do the people there still have that civilization identity with India, or it's lost?
No, it's absolutely there. See, the connection is Udupi to Pashupatinath.
yes.
And there is a connection that is day in and day out. They connect with everything with regard to India. There is no doubt about it. That part they can never get rid of, because umpteen number of groups, umpteen number of people have tried to destroy this, and that has never happened. So it will not happen also. But the thing is, political transitions are so crucial for any nation. He was mentioning from monarchy. Okay, monarchy had its own issues, monarchy had its own internal problems. Monarchy also, as the family grows and that there can be discontents, all those things are accepted. All those things are part and parcel of it. But if there is a revolution, or if there is a transition that has to happen, that transition can happen. Like I have said before, if democracy can sustain with institutions. Otherwise, it's an abstract idea. Suddenly, overnight, you wanted to overthrow monarchy and then you wanted to have democracy. It's not going to happen. Democracy also requires a base work. There is a prerequisite for democracy to sustain. So you came up with few sloganeering, your left-wing politics, the communists were hiding in all sorts of places, and then they, first and foremost, they did not gel with the civil society only, and then they wanted to run the state. So we had no idea how to go about it, and the arrogance on top of it not to seek help from states like India. If Bhutan could request India to send election commissioners to be observers and then help out to move from monarchy to democracy, why is the arrogance for Nepal not to ask India or Indian institutions that you can come and help us? See, learning, that's what the Vedas say, learning can happen or good things can come from anywhere. That should be the thought. You are so arrogant, neither you have capacity, nor you are accepting others' capacity, and then you want to run a jugad. This is exactly what they tried doing in Nepal. So the communists suddenly thought, now that we have got power, we were criticizing them, we will run the show. That is when people like Pushpa Kumar Dahal got exposed. Same Pushpa Kumar Dahal, who kept on attacking India in his tenure. Now, last year, by the fag end of last year, he made a confession that during my tenure as a Prime Minister of Nepal, I should have worked better with India, I should have worked closely with India. That's a realization. You can't every time play sort of politics that is decisive. You go on play a politics playing to the gallery. Nation first. That is what India has stood for. It's the same way every nation should think that nation first and then the rest other things. They trumpeted at some point of time where they wanted to have Mandarin in Nepalese schools.
Yes.
Can you believe this? They wanted to have Mandarin, and those of them who would have Mandarin, they wanted to incentivize.
And even when behind the screen China was occupying Nepal.
That's a regular affair. That's happening even now. They continue to occupy their territories, and then when India shows Kala Pani as part of its map, they go hue and cry. And then in the parliament they pass resolutions. They do all sorts of things, which is which is crazy. That shouldn't have happened at all. But what they have not understood is also that the Chinese are extraordinarily good with regard to their market research. They will not come to you if you don't have utility. More than utility, you should be stupid. Their basic requirement is wherever people are stupid, they'll go there because they can play with them. They can also fool them. They can incentivize few things and then they can grab things from them. Perhaps that got exposed. That is where, in the cusp of playing this game of bargaining or balancing certain things, what the Nepalese haven't understood is that for no reason they were trying to antagonize India. India has been good to them. Do you think in that asymmetry between India and Nepal, can Nepal ever withstand what India can do? Exactly. But India has never shown that sort of power. Even when they were accusing, even they were doing so many things, India kept mum. India did not speak a word.
There was maybe some courtesy statement from the ministry, otherwise there was no.
Yeah, because we didn't want to escalate it. We didn't want that to be blown out of proportion for no reason.
But I just want to understand. There was a government which is against to Indian government. Was there is some civil community which was in parallelly communicating with India where to ease out the situation, or is there some mechanism was working behind?
There are certain civil society organizations, but the thing is also, that's what I said when I said institutions, it's also civil society. If your civil society is not strong enough, like that of 75 to 77 in India, if your civil society was not strong enough, we would have not bounced back. We would have had a dictatorship for decades to run. Civil society bounced back. Leaders took a resolve, irrespective of party cadres, irrespective of belonging to different groups. They were ready to sacrifice. They came on street. They opposed her tooth and nail, and that's how we got back. That's another independence for us. 75 to 77, getting back or coming out of emergency itself was an independence for us.
Now, I have see that with all this crisis of Nepal, China, America is giving some package, which America we ever had a history of giving a package to Nepal. So India being fighting with Nepal and this court, and America is giving a package. How it is working? Is India? Is it in the interest of India, or it is against of Indian interest? Or
specifically the designs of US.
It's little kind of
exactly.
We don't understand this.
No. US first and foremost is since Mr. Biden has come, US as such as a superpower has gone down drastically. Biden has not got his senses clear. Secondly, he is still living in Cold War politics. And he hasn't got a feel of it. Unfortunately, the vice president is also equally of the same quality. I don't think Americans deserved this one. And now people are openly talking about it, that under Trump everything was under control. Putin did not think of attacking Ukraine.
Exactly.
Right? The Chinese did not overthrow anything the way they are trying to do at Solomon Islands or anything of that sort, trying to threaten the Taiwanese. None of these things were happening. Right? North Koreans were not threatening.
Even there was a peace talk.
Twice.
Peace talk.
Obama, I've said this hypocrisy. Obama made a statement that we will have disarmament. They gave him Nobel Peace Prize.
And West Asia is again flaring up, which didn't happen until
The six-party talks after that.
Yes.
So this was again one historic movement.
See, he assured peace everywhere. He assured peace in the East. He assured peace in what we call as West Asia or Middle East. Look at the way he has brought peace between Israel, UAE and Saudi Arabia, all Islamic nations. Right? What other presidents could not do since 1980s. This man did it in one term and he went. And he also rose America's stature.
Even that Tel Aviv and that he withdrew from UNESCO, that if you don't
lot of places.
Yes.
you will withdraw from the UNESCO.
You can't be discriminatory to Israel. That's what he said, and he withdrew from the UNESCO thing, World Heritage component. No, what I'm trying to say is this is perhaps a weak moment of the United States. It does not have good friends. It does not have real friends. The Israelis are there because Israelis are powerful. They are controlling American foreign policy. That is what is the truth. But other than that one, they don't really have real friends. And here some of the people who are reciprocating, who are trying to be true to what they are countries like India. Now what happens is, in that desperation, the United States had to show something or the other. So one of the fears for them is also the Chinese influence in Nepal. So they don't want another country to join Nepal, the Chinese, and then keep going into their basket. So once in a while what you have to do is, to some leadership, to just say some good things about the United States, they end up doing this one. But these really don't, transform into outcomes, because foreign policy is all about output and outcomes. And those output and outcomes, if they are not measurable, they are no use.
So now Nepal is heading back to its root, or it is like...
It has to move, but the problem is also that if your political society is weak, it's divided, and it also gets promoted from elsewhere. Let's say the Chinese say, let Sri Lanka be an example and all these things, but don't believe them, and it takes care of the political class. Naturally, the political class will say the scenario in Sri Lanka is different, scenario here is different, but the Chinese have been helping with our hydro component to a lot of other things. So there is nothing wrong in we going. That's what they would claim. So it is not going to be easy as long as the civil society doesn't get educated and civil society doesn't respond to these type of things. Then there is a problem.
I mean, just a corollary to this. I mean, before we come to our, the western borders. The question of China in Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, including Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar. What do you think like India could do better? I mean, you've already given outline like what India did in Nepal and even Sri Lanka, the way it supported Sri Lanka, that's all fine. But is there something which you believe that India can do better in terms of, maybe it could be, engaging civil society, or could be in terms of, investment or something. So, leaving aside the Pakistan or western frontiers, what else can we do in our neighborhood?
See, one of the things, as I told you, outcome and output. The tangible outcomes are what people look at. So for us, the problem is the political class in these states do not want anything to be India way. They fear that they will lose their ground. Yes. That is first part. The second part is also India wants to engage because our civilizational roots are that when we do something in the right hand, left hand should not come to know. So a lot of things, except for because it has to be made as a statement and other things, India perhaps would not want to trumpet that I've done this, I've done that, I've given this, I've given that, and on a daily basis this happens. And so far what India has done, see, on the economic front there are certain limitations. India cannot go overboard because after a particular point of time, especially with the COVID crisis coming in, Indian economy has bounced back. Now it's working, now it's looking healthy, and now it has to grow in a particular pace which we can't afford to lose the sight at all, because economics is the base. It's the direction that we need to go. On that front there will be limitations. As and when they ask for line of credit, we can give them and we can sustain for them. The other component which perhaps Government of India, I think, can also advertise much more is the amount of training that we are doing for their youth, the number of scholarships that we are giving for the South Asian students, and the way we are supporting institutions to take care of so many things. I'm telling you, armed forces training. Absolutely. The technical training that is going on, number of scholarships that are, except for Ministry of External Affairs coming out with their yearbook, you really don't find anything being propagated. Perhaps there where we need to percolate it to Indian civil society that this is what we are doing. They are aware of it. Afghanistan students, they have so much of gratitude towards India with the type of scholarship that we give. Even now, we have in our universities those students who come from Afghanistan, those who come from Bangladesh, those who come from elsewhere, from South Asian states. And they have so much of gratitude because from infrastructure to everything, that India is faring much, much better. And they don't have political issues like their states. They don't have violence that is going on. They can live peacefully on their campuses. They are not misused for anything else. There are so many ways of interpreting. So India is doing lot of things in the background which perhaps we within the civil society we are not aware of. Number of technical training programs. It runs just to Sri Lanka itself, runs into 400 to 500 students coming in. That's a type of program that we are doing. We are doing in batches. We are training them and then we are sending them back. This is something that we are doing on a regular basis. Apart from that, the armed forces training we can do. And science and tech, that's our strength. On the science and tech front, especially in the South Asian neighborhood, living outside or sans Pakistan, a lot of these people can do. Like if these smaller states can have their own satellites and other things, there is nothing wrong. India has launched a South Asian satellite. And let's look at statistics from 2015 to 2022 with regard to natural calamity. How many times India has helped with the satellite system, and how many disasters have been stopped, how many times the floods and other things, they got alert, they evacuated people, and the loss of life has been
in many of the
most of the
Nepal,
time.
Maldives, then when they have water crisis, we sent a ship.
We have done a lot of things with regard to that one. So I think India believes in this part of it, as he mentioned. When somebody else sends weapons, we send wheat.
Right.
When somebody sends aircraft to them, we send nurses to them. We build hospitals there. That's the difference. That's why I said India at this juncture by default will become a great country. But it intends to be a good country. The intention is to be good. But by default, what will be the outcome, if you ask me, that will make it great. That's the direction that we are moving in. The political dispensation is clear about it. That's why I keep telling that you have a man in foreign policy who knows. That's where Prime Minister is relieved. You have a man who is dealing with foreign policy who knows where his brain is.
Yes.
And he doesn't mince words.
Exactly.
He gives back the way it is expected. And that's where I think the confidence as a nation is coming up. We are able to answer back to them. Internally, we are strengthening ourselves. Politically, we are stable. Economically, we are growing. Right? And culturally, we are prospering. So, it's a combination of all these things, which is the basis for us, any one of them rising. Like the Chinese society, if you ask me, Chinese society is economically prosperous. But culturally, they are weak. Psychologically, they are massively weak. And after all, at the end of the day, even if you eat one meal less, you should have that creative space, which is missing. That's where I think India's strength is all about. I think that creative space is what we are concentrating, and then our people are growing. So now, like few years ago, this used to be a regular topic in diaspora studies to a lot of other things, brain drain. Now people have often actually have stopped talking about it, because those people are feeling that, okay, we went one day, we had to go out because of certain conditions and all these things, but given a chance, I would want to come back. That's a feeling that we have brought in them, people used to ask me, what exactly is the difference this Prime Minister has brought in? I used to be telling them very clearly, he is also doing what other Prime Ministers did. He would go to a country, let's say United States or Australia or UK. He would also meet the business leaders. But beyond that, he's doing something else, where he's connecting to those people who have gone as civilians who have gone there. And what he's asking them is not anything phenomenal. He's not telling them, come and do $1 billion investment. He's simply telling them, you come back to your village whenever the time permits, build a toilet there, that's enough. Help out a road to be laid. Not everything you can show your gratitude in different ways. There where they are connecting. It might sound for people that what exactly is Prime Minister trying to do? When he goes to a working class people in Dubai, he sits with them and eats a burger that they are eating. The pride that you should see. That's where we have to observe social media. The way Pakistanis were abusing, that where is our Prime Minister? He doesn't even know what we are going through. Here is an Indian Prime Minister who comes to you, he talks to you, and then he eats with you sitting, and he takes time out in his official capacity as a Prime Minister. That is the change that I am talking about. I am teaching a paper called Continuity and Change in India's Foreign Policy. It's not about how much we are economically grown, how much we have brought foreign direct investments, how much we have gone and invested, what has been the GDP component. These are certainly required, but I'm also trying to look beyond that one, where India has made a change as a nation, where people are taking pride being elsewhere, that I'm an Indian. First off, inside the country, we may all have our own identity. When we go out, When someone asks you, who are you? We say Indian. And that way, if we are able to say with pride, I think half of the work is done, I think.
I think now we have to go shift to Afghanistan.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, just before that, I mean, since we are, I mean, I think we have covered most of the things, other, you know,
Nepal.
the other region. But one thing is, whether it's Nepal, Sri Lanka, are they able to make a distinction between China and India? The presence
Certainly.
of China and India in their country.
Certainly, see, whatever.
Whether it's a political class or the civil society, are they able to distinguish between Indian involvement and Chinese involvement?
In fact, see, the thing is, when you have so much of economic clout, it is not very easy to dismantle them.
Exactly, yeah.
You know,
that's the reason.
because when I say that I want to do something for you people, but I'm constrained, I may do, let's say, $1 billion. And there is someone who's outrightly saying, I'll bring $50 billion to you people. But they may not say the subsects of it. What is going to be part of that 50 billion? But for an announcement, it's a 50 billion, it's a big money. The civil society is able to differentiate from the perspective where the Chinese come to any country. When the Chinese come for business, they get their people.
Exactly.
They want their people because they have no respect for International Labour Organization, and they don't prefer to have any of those restrictions, and they would want to work, take as much as possible and then go.
Right.
The Indian side of the story is that we may not invest as much as they. Whatever that we invest, we believe in capacity building of that civil society and the local people. We give employment for them and we generate employment on that
Basically,
front.
China is doing a development work in Nepal, where it is not giving orders to local companies. They bring
the
their
Chinese-
company, their labor.
Exactly.
So the money is going back to China.
See, very
Exactly.
similar to what the Chinese mining companies doing in Africa.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know,
Always.
They're-
CPAC.
it is,
CPAC, it's a colony.
Yes, colony.
No.
CPEC, believe it or not, our friend Neela Kadri Baloch once said that there is not the day that is very far where we may have a Chinese chief minister in the Baloch region. That's what she said. It was sarcastic comment that she made, but I could feel the pain. You know, that is how they have been. So first they will get their company, and then they will invest in your country, and then they will bring their company to do a lot of things that are required. Then you will become the consumers of it. Then they will send the Chinese goods only to be consumed. Everything is Chinese at the end of the day. But it's your resource, your place, and your people who are the pawns in this one. So civil society, whether it is in Sri Lanka, whether it is in Maldives, whether it is in Bangladesh, whether it is in Nepal, in all these places they are able to differentiate. But the thing is that initial spark that we see, initial presence that we see, and the initial seed money that we are able to see, that is on a little comparatively on a higher side from the Chinese. So, and also the swiftness in which they start operating, because after all their system of functioning is minimal. 7 people have to make decision. We are a parliamentary democracy where procedure is much more important than the ends. So we have to go through a process. So in that process we may be little delayed. That is the only issue that I see. Otherwise the civil society is aware of. But what happens is, when civil society starts becoming aware of it, when political class doesn't help, they also will have limitations. At the end, let's say, an extreme crisis like that of Sri Lanka comes in, where the civil society goes completely out of control and they start protesting. On a day-to-day basis, I don't think they can ever do this one. There will be limitations on that front, because everybody has to earn their bread. Though, in few places, including that of India, protest itself is a business for some people. That's a full-time job. That's a different issue. But not everybody can do that one. So what everybody can do in every country, you know, everybody might not tolerate that one. India is a very tolerant country. Not everybody is.
So,
I think now we can
When it
shift
comes to the
focus.
tolerance, how tolerant Afghanistan Taliban is towards Pakistan, because what we are seeing, you know, what even Imran Khan said, you know, it's a great thing, we can counter India together, and India had left with no choice, as we, I mean, openly maybe they had strategy, but they stopped their, I mean, the embassies were stopped and we hold our things. But gradually things are moving now. We have supplied the wheats, and they have, even vaccination was sent to Afghanistan, that the clothes were sent. But the things are changing, turning against Pakistan very quickly because of the Durant line and this Pakistan, Tehreek-e-Taliban and Afghanistan Taliban, that good Taliban, bad Taliban, it's really hitting them back, and there is a change of regime. So how do you see these developments in the vis-a-vis with the Indian contest?
This is very interesting. I had spoken to both of you, and I also had made a mention of this one. Most of the political pundits in India, when Taliban took over, said India is doomed. Now Taliban will attack India, and India will be troubled. Now two-front problem. And all this. I had openly said, saying, in Taliban will not attack India. Taliban will not do anything because it is aware and it knows the capability of India, that this India is not the old India, what it had seen maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Now you give us 10%, we'll give you back with 50%. That's a sort of retaliation. If you remember, I had told you very clearly, Taliban, come what may, even if the Chinese push them, even if the Pakistanis push them, they will tell, yes, we will do, but they will not do that.
No, but the narrative was so strong, right?
Yeah.
The mainstream
India lost out, India lost out.
Scenario of gloom. Kashmir don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They have celebrated as like they have won the Kashmir.
Exactly. They did this one. No, that time
I remember you clearly said that it's not.
They will not.
The picture in our mind was like India's going for a two-front strategy, and India's going to
lose out.
Forced to participate in a war. It doesn't want to do all that. But
No, I had very clearly said that's where perhaps we need to look little out of the box, understanding the psyche, understanding psychology of terrorism or psychology of this type of organizations. Now to Ajith's question, that how is this opening up? Few days ago, Taliban gave a warning to Pakistan, saying that when you're messing up, you are overstepping, we'll give this back to you. This is very important for us because this is also part of what we call as identity politics. Now that identity politics has to do with who are ruling here, what dispensation, what groups, and who are ruling here. See, much before the idea of Taliban, they're after all Pashtuns. Right? Their identity of that is much more stronger, which at least in the South Asian context, we cannot give up on that one. For that matter, even religion cannot change it completely. That root identity, they will carry with them along with that one. It will not go. Very deep. And what happens is, even when they embrace a new religion, they take these antics and they take these characters also with them there. So there were perhaps one of the problems that Pakistanis thought that now they have got an absolute proxy, because they openly started sending aircrafts to do everything. Their ministers started visiting, and they made it like we are the one who helped Taliban to take over. That's a sort of feeling they gave, which was not. And they tried doing also. Now, Pakistan's one of the biggest problem is that it overdoes many a times. It doesn't know the limitations of power. You have an extent of power. You do it, no problem. You help them, you keep them in that respect, but you overdo it, and then you start thinking that it's some sort of a sub-player, that you can dictate terms and get it done. I helped you with something, I came and visited you, now unleash on this thing, unleash on Kashmir.
Visit on Faiz Hamid on...
Exactly. Now, another problem that the Taliban is facing now is, when you are on the other side, when you are not part of the government, you can do anything and everything. Now what they want is legitimacy. Now what they want is a longer term to sustain in power, because they have learnt in 1995 what happened and how they lost it out. They know it very well. Now they want to behave like a country. They want to behave like a government, not anymore like a terrorist organization. But yes, the strict imposition of Sharia and these things are always there. For that purpose, they cannot afford to listen to one group and then they can try threatening someone who has not threatened you, not even once. What is the ground on which they can attack India or trouble India, you tell me? There's no ground at all. In fact, we have been doing out of our what is a concern so many things by risking ourselves.
It's only about the religious way. The religious
That is the only thing that they can talk about. But that also, we are not directly connected to them. We are not done anything to them. So in that way, they have no ground to talk about.
Dr. Nandakishore, just playing devil's advocate, what are the chances that Afghanistan could take the model of Pakistan for the sake of Islamization of parts of India? They funding some local terrorist outfits. What is the possibility? Just playing a devil's advocate.
No, absolutely valid question. But the truth is that, as I told you, their identity doesn't go beyond a sphere. That is one part. Secondly, they also know that their brand of that identity will not go out. Otherwise, when they hear certain things were happening, including that of local things such as hijab and other things which others spoke about, they should have spoken about it. But what they have partially there here said is very, very minimal. I am telling you, that is not a thing to worry at all. That's not a concern to be brought up as well.
One statement on hijab.
That is fine. That's what I am telling you. That's very, very limited. They also know that that form cannot be emulated elsewhere. It is their very, very specific one. They cannot do this one. So from that perspective, there is no issue with regard to. But what we can see now is that slowly, like the way the previous regime, democratic regime, also started off on a honeymoon with Pakistan, and then how they parted ways and then they had problem. Same thing is going to happen with Taliban. Now, one of the pressure that Taliban will regularly go through is from ISIS. ISIS would want them to do certain things which Taliban will not do.
There is a friction.
So they will not do. They will not do.
Yes.
They will not do this one, and ISIS itself will get involved. So Taliban will engage itself to contain ISIS and then maintain how to take care of the Uzbeks, the Tajiks and other groups within, and so that they don't rebel and come up with mercenaries and then they attack the Talibans. They would want to make sure. So now most of their energy is being invested in how to tackle ISIS not trumping them and then trying to be a champion. So there is an internal strife that's going on where ISIS wants them to do. ISIS thinks that we have all been responsible for installing Taliban there. Now Taliban doesn't seem to be behaving the way we anticipated it to.
Right.
So
now I put one devil's advocate to you. Initially, India said we don't engage. Then we had no choice. Even entire world had no choice but to engage. Because they are in the power, they are the leader. You like it or not, because you have to go through them, even for humanitarian rights. So we started negotiating. It's a back channel diplomacy somewhere in UAE. We went. There are some theories and all. We don't know the facts, but at the end of the day, at least we know that the wheats went there, vaccinations went there. So in a worst come worst situation, if Afghanistan don't budge Pakistan, and Pakistan has a non-state player like ISIS, they together attack Afghanistan, and Afghanistan, if not able to contain it, will they come to India, or is there a possibility of such thing that India can intervene? Because Pakistan can go to, even later ISIS even threat for Pakistan also, but we are saying, I mean, it's just a possibility. I'm asking, is there a kind of a possibilities, or do you see?
The probabilities are always there. See, one cannot rule out, and we should not rule out also. Even when we anticipated that the Taliban will not be able to come that fast. In fact, our national security advisor was accused that he had a miscalculation. He should have thought about it much better and all this. That's a dynamism. Even the United States did not think that swiftly they will be finished off and then the Afghan forces will give up. That's its geopolitics. That dynamism is geopolitics. Second part is also one of the basics of diplomacy. What exactly is the job of a diplomat, if you ask me? The first quality is to lie. So we may say that we are not engaging, we don't want to engage, all those things, but at the same time, you don't want to put your state into risk. For that, how do you manage? So you have to manage that one by having certain back channel always open. You can't shut your door for anything for that matter. You can't shut your door. So there is a slight opening of the door that will always be kept. If there is a fresh air that is trying to enter, we will do. See, as I told you, there is a change in behavior in Taliban because this time they would want to have a longer regime. They would want to be a country and they would want the civil society to believe that they are there for a longer time. For that, there are certain individuals who have been put by the Taliban government to talk and negotiate with certain neighbors, certain countries that are very, very important for them. They continuously engage with that one, in which India has also been engaged to. The other side of the story is that what if ISIS and Pakistan come together and then they make a conglomeration and then push the Taliban to either fall in line or they themselves attack India. That is the second scenario you brought in. The problem with ISIS is also, or every state that has at some point of time allowed ISIS, is that rather than Pakistan having ISIS, ISIS would want to have Pakistan. That fear in the political society of every state where ISIS has gone has been very, very deep. There was a point of time where ISIS also had an entry in Bangladesh. Right. ISIS had an entry even in Sri Lanka. ISIS had an entry in Maldives. ISIS had an entry in Pakistan. Everywhere they have had their footprints. But learning some lessons from West Asia where they went and the type of devastation that they can bring and the brutality cannot be handled even by hardcore Islamist states. So what they have learnt of late is that, yes, keep the ISIS in the back, allow them to be there, there is no problem, but don't allow them to run the show on behalf of the state. They don't allow them to dictate things for the state. So there where Pakistan as a state also knows certain limitations that they can't go overboard, because where is the guarantee that they will not topple you and then declare your state also as a caliphate? Right. That is not in the interest of the political class. Political class is enjoying a cushion effect and everywhere they are having good fun in all the countries.
Even the civil society.
The whole political society will be wiped out. ISIS would want to have a caliphate where all peers will be sitting, all mullahs will be sitting. They don't want that to happen.
Even the political civil society is much more modern society of any Islamic country they speak. Though it's an Islamic state, they are very much modern and open society.
Absolutely. Irrespective of political parties, the whole political class comes together and they will all go jobless. And they know the outcomes of what ISIS is capable of. They will finish you off and then they will declare you as a caliphate, which is not in their interest. They did not allow Osama bin Laden to do that one. But Osama bin Laden himself did not dare to make a caliphate. That's a different issue. He was very realistic, unlike these people. But the political class is aware in all the states, I'm telling you. I'll give you one example. ISIS wanted to get involved in the Palestinian movement. But the Palestinians realized that at least they have some amount of legitimacy and sympathy across the world. Okay. But if ISIS gets involved, they will be delegitimized. And it is like they themselves are giving weapon to Israel. Now do you destroy me? Right. And on top of it,
if Israel decides, it's a matter of minutes.
That is what I'm telling. At least they have been now, because now Israel is bit hesitant on Palestine because there is some ethical component of it. There is some asking that you are doing. There is some historicity to that one. Right. If ISIS gets involved, you are giving a weapon to them, now telling that now completely you destroy me. So Palestinians threw ISIS out. Okay. Palestinians said, nothing to do with our intifada, nothing to do with our movement. We don't want ISIS to come at all. Otherwise, ISIS had gone. Yes. They also got carried away for a moment, and their ear it would kill, and then it would hold the flag. Right. They started doing this, and they got scared. And then they decided, Mohammed Abbas and everybody within the Palestinian these things, even in the Gaza Strip, those groups were super clear. We will fight out, we will do whatever that we want to. No, ISIS should not come. So that's a breathing space for us, for Ajith ji's question. Yeah. That is there a possibility political class will go jobless, so it will not happen.
Okay. One more follow-up question. Yeah. Where is China here?
No, China is very smart. China will support Taliban. China would want to have, because they have to have access to rare earth materials, they have to have access to lot of things, and the Taliban requires their money. They don't have scientific equipment, they don't have wherewithal, they don't have people who have brains, scientific brains, so they require the Chinese to come in.
US-Arab coalition like.
So China is very clear. One, don't unnecessarily poke into my business in Xinjiang, where the Uyghur Muslims are there. I don't want any of you to even utter a word about it. And that's your job, you take care of it. Second, you want money. I will give you money. I will take whatever that I want from your country. Allow me to, so I will make you modern. That means you will continue to hold on to what you want to. I will continue to hold on to what I want to. Right. This is what I had written some time ago, calling as the Sino-Wahhabi nexus. This is typically a Sino-Wahhabi nexus. They will continue to have this. And this is like a unsolicited marriage or an illicit marriage between the Wahhabis and the Chinese. They will, this is like where I help you, you scratch my back, I scratch your back, but nobody else should come and scratch both of our back. So we'll make sure that will happen. So no trouble in Xinjiang, no trouble with regard to Uyghurs. I will do whatever that is required. You just aid me whatever that I am supposed to do. That is how the Chinese are. Chinese are intolerant to terrorism. They would want their state terrorism to be the best one. They would not want any other terrorism to come. It should be at that level.
They won't accept non-state terrorism.
No.
Only state terrorism.
Very clear. Then they can go to any extent. Even for that matter, Taliban is aware of that the Chinese are brutal when it comes to those type of things. They should not unnecessarily interfere in. And they will not interfere. So Chinese are super clear on that front. They are hypocrites when it comes to outside their border. When it comes to inside their state, that's how they are going to be. They will not allow Ramzan to happen. They will not allow mosques to be kept. They will have modern concentration camps for behavioral change. When that you are not ready to wear the Chinese dress and leave the Chinese way, then I will put you in concentration camp. So where we will have behavioral change for you to become a Chinese, a Han Chinese. Let me mark that. A Han Chinese. That's how it is.
With this discussion about control in Afghanistan, I want to shift to Pakistan with the same thing. Right now, we've already seen what's happening in Pakistan. Instead of going to that, who is controlling Pakistan today? Apart from all the news reports we have seen.
I'll tell you, the Chinese are one component of it. I said initially we used to say 3 A's, that is Allah, America and Army.
Okay.
Now they have 3 C's that they have to deal with: China, corruption and communalism. Okay. They have to deal with these 3. Okay, that's the truth that they have to survive with. Now, army will continue to be very, very powerful. They will pull the string. They know how they can take care of it. And they have convinced the civil society every now and then, when there is bankruptcy with the political class, we will step in. That means we are like messiahs. Whenever these fellows become too corrupt, and army allows them to be corrupt, because that is the only legitimacy they have, that they can come and have a coup. They will allow the political class to be corrupt first, and then tell the civil society, these fellows have gone too corrupt. That's why I am coming in. That's why we call that a cyclical democracy. They keep coming roundabout. Every now and then they come back.
Regime change without a bloodshed, I believe.
Exactly. So every time they'll have a coup, which the political class is already aware of, but they will pretend like what has happened to us and all this thing. They are aware of it much before itself. They are aware of it, and that's going to be the way. So army will have the control over it. What they are trying now is a model that if several political parties can come together and then form some sort of a coalition, so that this overall control of the army on single political parties and trying to bring them can be reduced. That is their plan. The third aspect is that, unlike before, we are not able to find very, very powerful military personnel in Pakistan army. There is also that is going down. Next you see now Bajwa is there. Okay, fine. After that, you really don't have that sort of a phase.
ISI appointment chief was, there was a drift.
Yeah. That was the major concern. Because Imran Khan was listening to his wife, who would guide him, being a Pirni, being Pirni, that she would guide. In fact, now at least he should have some realization. She had told that somehow take it to the first week of April, you will survive. This is what she had said. So he used the the Speaker of the House, and he bribed. He did everything possible, and then they got it pushed also, but it did not survive. At least now there should be some sense that has to come in. But what he did not anticipate was that this swiftly that there will be a change. And he tried every possible thing. He tried pricing India. He started talking about only with me there can be a straight foreign policy. He tried abusing India.
Yes.
He tried every model that is available in the cookbook of politics.
Yes.
But nothing has worked. That means still the, the army continues to hold the cover.
But
And
what changed in one is, for example, army control is something which is a given, we understand that. But about a year ago, when the street protests of Tehreek-e-Labbaik, TLP,
correct.
there was an understanding with the army that they want, crush the the protesters, TLP rioters, and there was understanding with the army. Imran Khan was fine. But what changed in this 1 year?
No, lot of things changed. In fact, Imran Khan, if he would not listen to, see, army wants certain things to be done. Army wants, it has its own priority list. When those priority list things are not fulfilled, it would simply say, see, holding people into important positions. It would talk about who should be where and with whom you should be asking what, how you should go. What happens is that as you are in position, at times you go a little overconfident. You think now the Chinese are directly talking to me. That means I am very close to the Chinese. In fact, that's what I had said in one of the interviews, that Imran Khan went overconfident. That now external players like China will be able to come and say, China will not even come to rescue. They did not even make a comment when he was exiting. That is that is the level of this thing. For them, it doesn't matter who is in power.
In fact, it is the Chinese who wanted them to be out, I believe. And he was one of overconfident. He wanted to throw out Bajwa out of power. That was a
understanding between the Chinese and the army, and you wanted to play in between, and then you wanted to gain the best of it. So the Chinese, for them, it doesn't matter. And one of the best lines that they would say is, we don't comment on domestic matters.
Yeah.
See, that is the rescue that they take. But the truth is this much only, that the Chinese, for them, irrespective of whosoever they want the army to be on their side, whether they have to operate in CPEC, whether they have to operate in other places, they have to have access to warm water ports. And that can happen only through Pakistan. That is very, very clear. And for that, they require security. Otherwise, the Pakistani civil society will go on rampage. The Balots are not easy people to deal with. The Balots will kill them. They started killing Chinese. That was when army could help, not Imran Khan or anybody could help. It was the army that came to help them.
The bus was fallen from that
exactly.
bridge.
So lot of things.
Daso dam project.
The bombs, lot of things started happening. Lot of engineers got killed and all this. And so army comes to rescue, not Imran Khan comes to rescue. So for them, army is much more important than that, because they know that they are capable of changing them any day, or they themselves coming into power is a step forward. So any day it's a possibility. So it doesn't matter for them who is in power. So he went overconfident. One, his Pirni was suggesting that stars are in the best constellation, that you will have best time.
Their foreign minister and that few ministers of his harem speaking what they should not be speaking.
Correct. And secondly, just because you change your attire, you make it to look like every time you are praying and all this, these images people will come to know, they have seen your past, what you have been, and they know the type of transformation that you can have, what you are capable of, what you are not capable of. But some people, like my own good friends, were very confident that he is known for death over bowling and he will take it till the end. And I said, it's a matter of time. Just wait and watch. It's a matter of time. It's all done. It will be done. In fact, he sustained till here itself is a miracle, actually speaking. There should not have been a possibility.
COVID and Afghanistan.
Exactly, which saved him to an extent. Without COVID, he would have not survived for this long within the force itself. And on top of it, Afghanistan crisis also helped him. But what they lost out in the Afghanistan crisis is also that only when there is an Afghanistan crisis and the Americans need Pakistan, Pakistan will have value. Pakistan will get budget.
Geostrategic
location makes very, very important for them. So for America, Pakistan becomes important only when there is a problem in Afghanistan.
Exactly.
So leaving Afghanistan by the Americans was not in the interest of Pakistan. He could have been still very, very important. But because he left, they thought they can make the best use of it by trying to bring or help out the Taliban by thinking now that Taliban will be team B for them. Taliban will never be a team B for them. By nature, by blood, they can't be team B to anyone for that matter. That's a truth. That's the reality that we have to grapple with when it comes to this.
One last question on Pakistan. Now the Sharif brother is back. We know that Nawaz Sharif had a very good relationship, that gesture of visiting his daughter's marriage. So anyway, it's the Nawaz Sharif who is definitely going to influence the brother Sharif in his foreign policy, especially towards India. So is there going to be a change of the situation? Like, will Nawaz Sharif will be a back channel diplomacy where India can have kind of dialogue, or is there any such possibility?
They will say, but the truth is also that if Nawaz Sharif has to set his foot on the soil, he requires the support of the army. So even if Nawaz Sharif wants it to be, he would want to tell that we should have better relation with India, let's not confront too much. I think there is this conflict of interest that comes in. Now the question will be, or the army will put up an issue for Nawaz Sharif, you coming back to Pakistan is more important, or you want the government to be talking and going smooth on India is important. So Nawaz Sharif will be in a fix. Though from heart, if you ask me, among all the politicians, he is much, much better human being, and he has a sort of sympathy towards India, and he has sort of feeling towards India where he thinks that if both of us can, he behaves like an economist. He thinks that same like how Vajpayee thought. If both these can come together, trade will flourish in South Asia. We any day become ASEAN. We become that economic front with the type of population, with the type of possibilities that are. But the reality is also, because he himself has not been allowed to enter the country, for him now coming back to the country is very, very crucial. So at least till he sets himself there and then he starts grounding, because his brother has also been accused of massive corruption. So he's just been chosen because others, all of them who have supported him and to be there, their understanding is very simple. Now that you have come, you are corrupt and make us corrupt. Let us loot this country as much as possible. That is their idea. So I don't see great prospects, but I also don't see the other extreme of abusing India on a daily basis. That will not happen. Now civil society will finish them off if they do this one in all this crisis. They will tell very first, set the house right, and then you talk about them. So for some time, at least the next 4 to 6 months, what I foresee is that they will just keep themselves mum. They would want to just concentrate on what is happening within, and then they will try settling down. That is what they are going to do, because they don't want Supreme Court to enter again. They don't want Supreme Court to give a verdict against his corruption charges and then he be disqualified or any of those things. They would want it to be smooth, and then they would want to. But there are non-state actors which will try to make it to look like the new Pakistan government is supporting non-state actors, and then they have risen number of attacks within India, in the Indian borders. They would want to give that image to destroy the image of the present government in Pakistan. They will start doing. They have already started yesterday, like that of Pulwama's this thing. They wanted to do something like. They will continue to do to delegitimize.
In spite of jailing that the 2611 terror
accused.
So he's been jailed for 30 years.
No, whatever it may be. There are enough people, there are enough groups, there are enough places from where they are operating. They already have a 10-year plan. They already have a 10-year plan where they have to head, when they have to attack, how they have to attack. Because planning for an attack cannot happen just like that. Planning for an attack requires lot of preparation. It requires lot of clinical ways of looking at achieving them. So they have a very clear plan how they have to go, but they will also have scope for innovation. And that is where this type of political crisis come, where they would want to delegitimize, or they want to make it to look like the new government is already just come in, but they are already unleashing. But it's not actually the government that is trying to do, or it's the force, and it's also these non-state actors who are hand in glove with the army who will continue to rule. That is what they're going to do.
I think we should move on to Maldives now.
Yeah, I mean, we just one final thing is we spoke about the Chinese control in Pakistan. I just wanted to bring in the angle of US in Pakistan. I mean, it has been a traditional ally of Pakistan, we know that. But with the changing dynamics, the growing India stature, and as a bulwark against China, who will US choose? Will it have a major relationship with Pakistan, or will it gravitate towards India more as compared to earlier decades?
India is an inevitable partner.
Yes.
India's relation or US's relation with India is at the mature level. That is economic relation. They cannot afford to disturb the defense and economic relation. They cannot, because we are one of the biggest markets. We are biggest consumers as well.
Exactly.
So they cannot afford to touch on that part. This is like a mercenary state for them.
Yes. Yes.
They would want to use as and when, let's say, India is not completely there here, also minimal, also they are not listening to, unlike previous years and other things. That is the time when you want to. Or let's say they would want to do something else, or they think now the Chinese have gone overboard in Pakistan, and Pakistan once upon a time used to be our most closest ally. Now suddenly they have gone out of this thing, they're not even worried about us. Then they would want to have that. Otherwise, they know the potential of Pakistan. At the most, they can sell them weapons. But the problem is also they're unable to sell a lot of weapons to them because they don't neither have money.
Because of FATF.
They have a lot of issues, so they cannot do that one. So they can't go beyond that particular level. And there is a danger that they think that if the Pakistanis, they are like this. If let's say the American president says, hello Imran, or hello, no, they will go and tell elsewhere that we both had dinner together. That's a sort of behavior that the Pakistanis generally show with regard to.
Joke that even at the end, Biden didn't call Imran Khan.
Exactly. So that is the sort of behavior. Okay. But with regard to India, they can never ever think of, in the sense that whichever political party comes, whether the Democrats, Republicans, anybody comes, nobody can or nobody is capable of disturbing India-US relations. It's gone to that level. That is the reason, even after saying something when we were buying oil or something like that, or raising the voice with regard to S-400, then they themselves had to give a statement saying that, no, it was not threatening India, we were just showing our concern. That is how they had to change. No, that's the power that where India has landed as of now. So India's growth is steady, slow, but at a matured level. It is not hopping for that immediate flash that it wants to. What it knows is that I know that I am capable of, but I might not be too fast to grow into that one. So that is how it is going to be. So it's a parallel relation, but still an asymmetry. If India is here, Pakistan will be here. Pakistan is used. India cannot be used. That's the difference. So India is an equal partner. India would want to see itself as an equal partner, though knowing that it's a superpower and we are a growing power, we are a major power, but that does not make us feel inferior at any point of time. So we cannot be used. That's the difference. Pakistan can be used.
It's a very major distinction. Maldives.
Maldives.
Yeah.
Now there is an it's Maldives as a switching to China, then the pro-Indian government comes, then things will change. The Indian strategic interest or the naval port, these are some things has become like a domestic politics for India, like the neighboring countries, but Maldives is more like but now there is a anti-India protest and the pro-Indian government. So how do you see in the point of view, China has the influence there.
See, Maldives is a very typical country. At some point of time, for anything and everything, it looked up to India. And then it switched over allegiance to China, and now it realizes that the Chinese are also not stable and they can be very dangerous when it comes to dealing with certain things. This anti-India protests and other things were started, they were funded, and they were taken care of by few players at the geopolitical level, but the political dispensation has been actually very close to India, and they know the type of help that India has done. This is like, you take my vaccination, you take my aid, you take my food, and then you bite me.
We have supplied our helicopter.
Lot of things we have done.
Helicopters.
Lot of things we have done to them, and look, few things are spoken, few things are not spoken, as I told you. So the political dispensation is clear that there is someone playing externally on the civil society.
Right.
But the political dispensation also knows the cost of supporting anything like that. That's why Soli waited for a while, but now he understands that it's going to work against, and on top of it, seeing what is happening in Sri Lanka and other places, he anticipates that can happen any day to Maldives. And at that point of time, if a country like India doesn't come to help, nobody else will come to help. Right? And the Chinese, as usual, in their own style, they will say, we will not get involved in domestic politics. And that time the political dispensation may end up losing the power that they are in, and they would not want to do that.
More rescue kind of situation where India has to set
exactly, and 87 might not repeat.
Exactly.
So that's why yesterday that statement has come where saying that government has openly said that there is not any more India out sort of program, and we can't do that one, and we can't risk. See, civil society can be at times fooled also. It can be moved also by different means. That can be religion, that can be something else to do with. But ordinary Maldivians are also aware that for higher medical care and other things, they have to come to India only.
Yes.
This is the truth.
Maldivian police are trained by Indian police.
We do at different level. We do at every level for that matter, and all medical care to everything. If India stops issuing visa to Maldivian civilians, they will be in trouble. This is one section of the society that is trying to do this one and then trying to gain popularity, and it can be also fueled politically. You need to get rid of someone, you start something like this, and then once it gets over, they all close the shop and leave. And that's where Soli initially got bit moved by this one, thinking that it might be the largest sentiment of the civil society. But now he has realized that it is a politically motivated campaign just to unsettle the government and disturb the relation between India and Maldives, which they will not allow. And then now they are going to just settle it down. So very soon, in a week's time, you will see a complete different approach when it comes to Maldives. Maldives is a little complicated one because at some point of time, radical Islam started playing in, but then the civil society thought it's not going to be helpful. Then the state thought, because Maldives also survives largely on its tourism part, and you start moving too much into radical Islam, and then tomorrow they start telling you that you wear hijab and come to beaches. They're doomed. They can't afford to do that. Exactly. If Mohammed bin if Mohammed bin Salman is allowing women to drive, he is opening the movie halls, he is making it modern. You entering through Arabization is dangerous, right? You can't go this way around when the other side itself is moving towards modernization. You can't go back to Wahhabism. You can't go back to 17th and 18th century scenario. And they know, Maldives knows it very well, that its economy will be hurt. What if Indians stop going to Maldives? Do we think that we don't have an option that we are going? We have so many options to go. Andamans itself can be, Lakshadweep can be. These are as good as Maldives. We don't require anything to go these places. So they know the danger that Indians go in massive number and tourism is sustained because the type of culture that they have built over a period of time. So if they move into Arabization, if they move with anti-India sentiments, it's going to boomerang. It's going to affect them. What if Indians stop going there? That's what I'm telling you. They're going to be doomed. It's not that people are coming from US or elsewhere to Maldives for tourism. It is the Indians who are going in huge number, right? Our whole honeymoon packages are to Maldives only. The first thing that the package that has been shown to you when you go is Maldives, and they can't afford to risk this one. So it is very, very pragmatic approach that Soli is taking now. So it's going to settle down maybe in a week's time. That's what I anticipate.
So sometimes, if you don't help, I'll go to other person. He doesn't help, I'll go to some other person. Being a junior partner or a small guy, he's your neighbor and he's in the trouble, and he is asking help in a kind of a way that if you don't help, again I'll move on to someone else. If again Sri Lanka goes with the problem, it's problem for India also indirectly. So there is a kind of sense that going out of the way and helping, or we'll help in our limitations to Pakistan?
I think what we help is what we are capable of. In like local language also we say, stretch your feet as much as your bed. Right. So that's what we are trying to do. I don't think we are overdoing it or overburdening, because the government is also advised by certain people that don't go overboard. Don't make it to look like, because in every other crisis then they will look up to you only. That is also not a good development. So what we are trying to do is pragmatically what we are capable of. We will do a little more than required as of now, but you need to buckle up. You need to take care of it. That is what we are trying to say. But this, what I called in the beginning itself as bargaining politics. Bargaining politics is that I come to you so that you feel threatened, and then you call me also. So I'll take a pie from you also. I'll take a pie from you. That part is a bit tough now. It's not going to be very, very easy. Yeah, for Sri Lankans now, that part is tough, because the civil society will tell them that enough of your drama. We have seen this one, you have done this one. Now at least realize who are real and who are hunters. That means who have been preying on you, or those of them who have never shown any sort of antagonism to you, or they have not targeted you or anything of that sort, but when you fell into crisis, they were the first to respond to you. Now at least realize that one. So what I anticipate is, now that already in the cabinet that he has given up on all the Rajapaksas, now only the two brothers are there. There is no Namal, there is no Basil, nobody is there now. So except the Prime Minister is a Rajapaksa, the President is a Rajapaksa. So he has got a new cabinet, and then he is trying to show it up. I think that he has also confessed, that itself was phenomenal. People did not anticipate, knowing that he has been a military leader, they did not anticipate that he will actually apologize, or he will say that it was a mistake. Now I think the course of action has begun. He has openly said that not giving fertilizers to the farmers was a mistake. COVID affected tourism part, and then we also did some mistakes in awarding certain projects and other things to people, and overall economy has suffered. Now he will seek again the help of certain religious institutions and others to contribute.
This community is
with him. He is with him. They
are protesting against them.
No? The community is protesting, but the leaders are sympathizing. The Buddhist religious leaders are saying that this is the time perhaps we should help him out, because Rajapaksa has stood very strongly behind them. In fact, there was a point of time where the Buddhist population felt threatened that their social structure was changing, and then they would be sidelined. That is when perhaps Rajapaksa came in a big way, and he supported them, and he has been there for them to listen to and everything. So they are sympathetic to, where the religious leaders are saying, let's contribute from our own hermitages, from our own monasteries and other things, and fill the coffer a bit, and then see to it that we can revitalize the economy. They are all very rich, and they are trying to do this one. That is very heartening to see. And they will also be advising them not to go very close to the Chinese like the way they have done before. So then day in and day out lease out things to them. Now that leasing out, they will be very careful because of the debt trap, debt trap diplomacy, and I think they are aware of it. In fact, I said that the day when Jayanta Kolambage said that India first policy, that itself was a positive turn. In fact, both the Rajapaksas sat, and both the Rajapaksas have been having very positive opinion on India. They have not been accusing. On a day-to-day they were doing at one point of time before. And now they are not doing that one. They are not playing this divisive sort of politics to put down and then speak about. Now they know the value of others coming in. More so, leading from the Indian side, they have realized that how important it is to have India. So that bargaining politics will partially come down, but the Chinese will want to, or would want to see that happening, but it's not going to be that easy. Now the Sri Lankans will openly say, or the Rajapaksas will openly say that the time has changed, so we can't afford to do this.
With looking at all these things, my last question is very SARC.
SARC, don't ask about it. It is in ICU. It neither dies nor it comes to public, so it will continue to be on ventilator. It's in ICU and it will be in ventilator.
So is this one organization going to be die?
No, it will not die. It's on ventilator. It has to die means we have to pull out that. It's an ethical question. It's an ethical question for any country, because if India does something like that, immediately Bangladesh will feel, because it was created by me, India is doing this one. It's not my brainchild. That's why it has been my brainchild. It's not India's brainchild. It will do. So that's why India is like an ethical doctor who's standing next to it and telling, you are the members, I am also the member. If you want, you pull this ventilator out and you take
but
a
it's
choice.
only a talk about pulling the ventilator, not pumping up oxygen or to remove.
No, every time pumping the oxygen is not fetching anything.
Because of the Pakistan.
Pakistan has been a factor anyway. Pakistan, even if you create COVID fund, it's asking why should India be doing that one? And it wants to have an audit on what is India doing, as if India is surviving on a COVID fund. India did not survive because of the COVID fund. India had enough money to take care of itself. It wanted to help the South Asian neighbors. But you question every initiative that has been taken. And because Pakistan's approach is, even if it loses 2 eyes, India should lose 1 eye.
But if there is any alternative institution,
That kind of approach, there's nothing much
Nothing we can do.
if there is any alternative institution to SARC is being developed.
BIMSTEC is one of them we are trying, where that is one of the best ways you can ignore Pakistan. That's a thought behind. But BIMSTEC will have certain limitations, but BIMSTEC is growing. BIMSTEC has Thailand and others coming into, and it has potential. There's no doubt. But as of now, statistics say that in the Bay of Bengal or in the Indian Ocean, that part of the Indian Ocean, the Thai people do deep sea, fishing much more than us. So we haven't realized the potential of it. And we should perhaps do with having ANC, the Andaman Nicobar Command, and it is securitized, everything is there for us. I think it's a matter of fact that how much the state wants to push. I think India is pushing BIMSTEC really hard, and it wants to build. Perhaps that's the only way we can look at. Not everybody can be included, but one can be excluded. That's the advantage. That is Pakistan. No, with that institution, nothing can happen. So with SARC, it's an ethical question, and India is that doctor which doesn't want to do that one. If the nurse, that is the ones who have brought them and then put them is Bangladesh, they can do if they want to. They can do that one. Other members, supporting staff can do. India is only a doctor, is the big one, good one, and it wants to stand by side.
Remain good.
And you keep it on ventilator. I will fund you. You guys keep it on ventilator as long as you want to. We don't mind about it, but we will not be the one to pull the plug off.
My last question would be, America's been ruling the world because of the dollar and the military.
Correct?
And China has been thinking as an alternative power. But America sustained its supremacy unless until they had a political crisis in back home. Otherwise, their institutions are still capable of doing bigger things, because only the decision making is the problem there.
Correct.
But whereas China, they are giving a debt, but they are not able to sustain. Wherever they went, it is not yielding China. It is, their institutions are going bankrupt. Their real estate is going bankrupt. There are a lot of debt to be paid back to their banks. Even China is sinking. So as China as an economic power is showing up, but not sustaining, because they don't have a military might to sustain the
way US did it.
Not exactly, I'll tell you. Military might alone doesn't make it. It is the will to use the military that makes it. So, because one of the definitions of superpower is that at any point of time, in any given circumstance, if you can your forces in any part of the world, that's the superpower. And that's United States as of now. It has the willpower to use power when it requires. That is the first part. Second part is also, with power comes responsibility, and then United States is ready to take up that responsibility. Whether we agree or not, it comes in the situation, it appears in the situation, whether it's going to be a backlash, whether we're going to abuse, because America's position itself is like that. When it comes somewhere, people accuse saying that when it is interfering. When it doesn't come as a superpower, it is not doing.
It's not doing, exactly. Yeah.
You know, this is the same like India in South Asia. When we do, they say India is trying to do as a big brother. Big brother. It doesn't do. See, India cannot even do this much. See, that is the scenario that the Americans are also. We are doing in a region. They are going across worldwide. This is the scenario. Second part is that the Chinese model of working is that state wants to have all the control, and state would want to decide what will Huawei will also do, what will someone else also do. Americans are not like that. They are killers when it comes to. Look at the way they have captured scenarios. Look at the way Amazon has grown. Look at the way Facebook has grown. Look at the way Instagram has grown. So what they believe in is that individuals' growth, and they will contribute in turn to the society, and they will allow that creativity to go as long as it's possible.
They use as weapons also. We have seen it.
Exactly.
Every
Not
private
just
organization
no.
weaponized.
It's a weapon.
I'll tell you, even the social media that they have brought in everywhere, which has been appreciated everywhere, it's also a weapon. It's a weapon to make your society stupid, make your most creative time of your youth to be on that one, and so that you end up being stupid. That's also a weapon only. There is no doubt about it. But even using that one, they're getting money. That is the best part of it. Because it's a creative society, because it keeps it liberal, and everybody can think of becoming something, that society continues to grow. That continues irrespective of leaders. Now Biden, okay, after Biden there will be somebody else who will come, and somehow it will sustain, because there is a parity that has been achieved. Chinese society is not like that. Chinese society goes through crisis with every leader. And one scenario comes in. Now COVID came, after that one they have not been able to recover. And then now lot of companies are moving out, lot of them have changed their attitude. Umpteen number of things have happened to that one. It's like a bubble. As long as it's flowing, it's happening, it's fine. Somebody pins it, then it's gone. American is not like that. Americans are not bubbles. Americans don't believe in being in bubbles. They are much more realistic when it comes to that. But the Chinese are like that. They open shell companies. They are into fraudulence, because they are not contained by anybody. What their strength has been so far is having the gold reserves. They have the highest gold reserves, and they somehow have a daydream that one day the world trade will move into gold from dollars, which is not going to happen, and they have been trying very hard for a very, very long time, and that's going to be tough. The Chinese, this is the issue. The Chinese would want to call their growth as a peaceful rise. They would want to mask everything into that. Not being open itself is a major case of concern, where individual entrepreneurs are threatened. Look at someone like Alibaba, right, was growing in such a this thing, Jack Ma, and then now where is Jack Ma? He's not even talking about. They just put a moratorium on him, and they said no, Jack Ma is not anymore talking anything. Done. Jack Ma is not opening mouth, and that is the problem. That's why I called it as a bubble. Can India ever think of doing anything to Mr. Ambani or Mr. Adani or anybody else? That because they have their own stature, they stand by themselves. That's not the case with the Chinese society. It's unpredictable. It's unpredictable. Today you are like this, tomorrow the Chinese state thinks that you are not supposed to be like that. It's over. It's your company, you are a multi-millionaire, everything is there. Tomorrow it says it's all mine. Finished.
Yes.
Beauty of communism to be used in politics.
So that's how the brutally communism has been misused.
Yeah, see, communism is for political survival. They don't want political parties, they don't want pluralism and all these things. But in appearance, they're capitalists. They're capitalists than the capitalists. But political survival is through communism. Use the word communism continuously, so that nobody else even thinks of, okay, can I have a political party? Can I start a company without the Chinese state? Can I do something? I was giving example of this one when somebody recently presented something on Huawei as a state, and how is this different and all this. I said simple, if an Indian private company messes up in another country, Indian government will not get it will not show any interference. It will say the mess is created by the company, let it clean it up. But if the Chinese are into that same business, if Huawei has been accused in Canada or in the United States, Chinese government reacts to that one. Chinese government gets into that sort of a behavior.
Editorial.
So that's how they will do. See, this is because China wants to have control on everything. India doesn't want to have control on everything. America doesn't want to have control on everything. They would want to have control where they think they are legitimate to be. That is how we are.
I think it was a pretty detailed and very important discussion. We covered the India's neighborhood, the economy, the internal politics, the the churning which is happening around the countries in the neighborhood of India. The understanding we have is like currently the Indian foreign policy, it's pretty robust, and India has to continue the way it has been, whatever it's been doing, and not as a big brother, but as kind of a country which is really concerned about its neighbors. So India has to continue this. That's the sense I get.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I thank Dr. Nanda Kishor for all your very important insights, and it was both educative and we learned a lot. So
My pleasure.
yeah, and I also thank Ajith Shetty for his timely and very important questions, so which made the discussion very important. So thank you once again.